The attack happened so fast, without notice, the students' apartment had become rubble and debris. The air was thick with dust, the rays from the sun struggling to shine through the desolated area. The battle was over, yet there was no denying the amount of death that had taken place. Heroes, villains, and students alike. Among the terrifying scene stood a young man, his crimson eyes bloodshot, and his ash-blonde hair singed in parts as he desperately rummaged through the piles of concrete and metal. His hands were raw with blood from overexerting his work as well as digging through the sharp rocks. However, the pain meant nothing to him, his breathing ragged. He bared his teeth as he cried out in a pleading farce. "Listener!" He screamed with hoarse lungs burning from the excess of dust and smoke inhalation. "Answer me, damn it!" His eyes suddenly caught a glimpse of something glistening in a pile of rubble nearby. He would have ignored it any other time, but something about this glisten made him get up and continuously approach. He kneeled down and moved the large stone that laid on top of the pile, a loud thud sounding out at the pure weight. Bakugo looked down and instantly his heart sank. At first he didn't know how to process what he was seeing. It was none other than your hand, the ring he had given you for your birthday resting solemnly on your finger. Bakugo's eyes were wide, burning from the oncoming swell of tears and the lack of blinking. A hot flame ignited in his chest as the reality of the sight started settling into his mind. He had failed to protect you, and now you were dead. Bakugo's breathing paced uncontrollably as he grit his as tight as a vice. A tremendous swelling lifted itself from his belly, then to his heart and to his throat. He shut his eyes tight and lifted his head to the sky as his bloody lips parted with a despairing shakiness. His voice lifted out of his throat, and he screamed the only name he had ever grown to love. "Listener!" Bakugo gasped, his dark-rimmed eyes suddenly popping open. His forehead and back were wet with sweat as he sat up in his bed, frantically looking around the room in confusion. He swallowed with a dry mouth, temporarily ceasing his erratic breathing. Slowly Bakugo started to recognize the surroundings until he finally realized where he was. He brought his hand to his face and started to calm down, realizing the nightmare he had just experienced fortunately wasn't real. Still, he had insatiable urge to check on you. He glanced at his clock with heavy eyes. Granted, it was late, but Bakugo knew he wouldn't be able to go back to sleep without at least making sure you were okay. The tired youth shuffled out of his bed and slipped on his shoes and jacket before going out into the chilly night air. He stuffed his hands in his pockets and played with the keys in his right hand, the copy to your apartment. You had given it to him after your 6-month anniversary. He remembered being surprised when you did. "Are you for real?" he said with a squint of his eye. "Yeah, why not?" Bakugo smirked deviantly and snaked his arm around your waist. "Aren't you afraid I might come in late at night and take advantage of you?" You giggled and shook your head, a loving smile spreading on your rosy lips. "I trust you, Katsuki." Bakugo's face quickened as he kept thinking of you. He needed to know you were fine, to see you, feel you. What if that dream was a premonition? What if right now something terrible was happening to you? Bakugo grunted in frustration and turned his walk into a desperate gait, his warm breath becoming visible in the air. After a few more strides, Bakugo finally made it to your door. With impatient haste, he dug the keys out of his pocket and stuffed them in the keyhole, quickly unlocking it and entering your home. It was quiet, apart from the whirling of the washer. He closed the door and placed his hands in his pockets as he cautiously made his way to your room. It was dark, but the glow of the moon from the windows made it light enough for Bakugo to maneuver his surroundings. He couldn't hear any quiet commotion, which was good, but he continued nonetheless. He stopped at the last door in the hallway and turned the knob, slowly creaking open the door to let himself in. Bakugo looked around and immediately sighed in relief at the sight of you sleeping soundly in your bed. He should have left right then and there, but... He shuffled over to your bed and lifted the covers, slipping himself onto the sheet underneath and wrapping his arms around your waist. You groaned and awakened at the sudden contact, looking up at Bakugo sleepily. You yawned and rubbed your eye. Katsuki? What are you doing here? Bakugo humped, looking away from your cuteness.
Wouldn't you like to know?
You smiled lazily. Yes, I would. I mean, you are in my apartment. Bakugo blushed and pouted, staying silent as he refused to answer your question. You yawned again, your voice reducing to a mere whisper as you nuzzled into Bakugo's touch. It doesn't matter. I'm tired, you said as your eyes lulled close. Good night, Katsuki. Bakugo looked back at you as you finally fell back asleep in his arms. The soft, peaceful expression on your face made him feel so calm. His eyes soon started feeling the weight of waking up so late, his lids drooping over his crimson orbs. He exhaled softly and placed his head on yours, his grip tightening around you as he slowly drifted to sleep. He was glad you were okay. He knew that as long as you were in his arms, he'd do the best to keep you safe, no matter what.